Hey, everybody. I see some familiar faces out there. For those who I've never had the chance to meet, I am Chris Sewell, and I'm class of 2005. And I'm here to have us bake some Knock You Nakeds. I know many of you come here for reunions. For me, this is like one of my things for reunion is like, I have to get Knock You Nakeds. Luckily, I live in Williamstown now. I'm currently Associate Dean of Students and Dean of First Year Students. So I get the chance to have them whenever I get to go to events. So hopefully this will be something for you to be able to have them with you more frequently and not just wait for reunions. I want to give a few shout outs. First to my dear friend Sharifa Wright, many of you know, had this beautiful apron made for me, Kente cloth, Williams colors, love it, it's great. Also to Williams Black Alumni Network that I was past chair, so shout out to them as well. So we're going to get started. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Black Yard Bakery, where it came from as we go through this process, because I wanna make sure that we're filling time as we are waiting for things to happen. So to start us off, obviously, I'm preheating my oven, which is right next to me at 350. So that's just on waiting as we get started. So our first step is actually to melt butter. So this is some unsalted butter. In the recipe, it has you can either use one stick, which is half a cup, or you can use 1.5 sticks. I'm gonna use 1.5 sticks. I found it to be a little bit better, especially when making the bottom of the crust. So I will take these now and put them in a glass bowl here. And this will go into the microwave for it to melt. Now, for those of you who have not done butter melting in the microwave, don't be like me, which is putting it on high and walking away and then hearing kaboom, that the butter has popped and splattered all inside of my microwave. So what I generally do is I put it at not full power, but at half power in the microwave in 30-second spurts to get it to be melted. I also take it out and shake it around, because part of the reason it pops is because of the breaking down of the water and other things that are in there. So I'll put it in for 30 seconds. All right, so while that's going, let me tell you a little bit about Black Yard Bakery. So as I mentioned, I am living in Williamstown. And so during the it's not like, I mean, first of all, we can't really go lots of places anyway, but it's not this bustling metropolis where you can walk out and see all these people all the time, as we all well know. So I needed something to fill some time, figure out what I was gonna do. And one of my former colleagues baked really great cookies, and she's an amazing baker. And so I was like, hey, can you bake me some, tell me how to bake some chocolate chip cookies? She sent me her recipe. They worked out great. Then I was like, well, what if then I was really thinking about Starbucks. Anyone knows, if you're in Williamstown, the closest Starbucks is driving all the way to Pittsfield, really, to go to the Starbucks there. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to leave Williamstown yet. I'm just getting used to like this thing. So let me spend a lot of time Googling how to make Starbucks lemon loaf. Anyone who loves Starbucks lemon loaf in the audience, that's like one of my favorite things to go to Starbucks for. So I was like, I'm going to learn how to do this. And so I spent time, lots of Googles, Google, that led me to lemon loaf. Then I was like, well, if I can't go buy these sweets that I love, then I should start making these sweets that I love. And so every week I started to just look up a different recipe of something that I wanted to bake. So lemon loaf, I did pumpkin loaf, I've done red velvet cake. I just started to slowly go about this process of learning all these things. And then I realized, obviously, I'm a single person with no kids, so who's eating all these things? That also became a real big issue for me. So then I would give to my neighbors. So I live next door to the swim coach and one of the assistant swim coaches, and I live next door to somebody who works in IWS, Integrative Wellbeing Services. So I would give to them, and they would give me some feedback about what they really liked and what they didn't like. Then I was like, well, this is my way to check on people. So it would be my way to bring to the dean of the college or to go check on other people in town throughout the summer. And so I would bring them to people and they would give me their feedback, and it would be my way to check on my friends. And then when the students came back, there's some students who I'm close to. So that was my way to check on them. They would know what I was baking, and then I would bring it to campus and give it to them socially distanced to make sure that they get those sorts of sweets. So that led to people being like, well, you should make this a business. Well, not a business, because I can't even focus sometimes on the one full-time job I have. So not a business, but something that you can do more frequently. So that's how I came up with Black Yard Eve Bakery. Yard specifically referring to the fact that my family's Jamaican, and so people call going home yard. So that's where I came to Black Yard Eve Bakery. As you can see, butter is still melting in the microwave. Probably one more row and it'll be done. Yeah, and so that kind of led to Black Yard Eve Bakery, is me just having things to make for family, friends, students that I want to check on. I did the first experiment was to bake big, like in a big batch with this Christmas. I made some Jamaican black cakes, and I made some chocolate rum cake, and I made some gingerbread cakes, and I sold them. Great. Not really, like, it's not the top of my list of things to do. I did it this year because a lot of people wanted it, and if I was going to buy all those ingredients, I needed to get something back from it. But otherwise, it's my way to get in touch with students, especially when I'm on campus. I already have students who were not here in the fall who sent me text messages who are coming back in the spring to say, hey, are you still going to be baking in the spring, to try to get, you know, away and into my baking queue of people who get things. So here we go. First step, butter's melted in our glass bowl. And I'm going to now add to that the Devil's Food cake mix. I also said you could use the chocolate cake mix. I think there's some people who emailed me ahead of time who asked about gluten-free products. I said, you know, try to go get a gluten-free box of cake. Now, let me start off with this and say, for those of you who get cakes from me, box cake is not what you're getting. Let me just be clear about that. If you get a cake from me, it's not box cake. However, I wanted to stay true to Dining Services recipe as sent to me. So I'm sticking with something that Dining Services has in their recipe, which is cake mix. I hope after the coming year or during this year, to really spend time trying to perfect other ways, but for now, I'll just stick to this. So I'm gonna add 1 pouch of the Devil's Food cake mix. And then also to this, you're gonna add some condensed milk as well. So I'll do, or evaporated milk, whatever you have in your house. You can use that. Someone asked if I'm using salted butter be okay. I would assume so. I have not, I only keep unsalted butter in my house because since most of the baking I do has unsalted, I use unsalted, but you know, if I can imagine it won't make that much of a difference. So here's the butter and the cake mix, as well as I'm going to add roughly 1/3 of a cup of the condensed milk. So this is my 1/3 of a cup here. I will add that into the mix. I had one open, so I need to open another one actually. Just so you know, it's also a beautiful snowy day in the background of Williamstown. What else could one expect from this time of year and while we're together to bring this sort of weather to us? So I've added the 1/3 of a cup of condensed milk. I will just try to get as much of it as I can get out of the.
Hey, Chris, it looks like we have a couple questions in the chat. Porter May asks, the recipe says evaporated milk. Are you using sweetened condensed?
Yes, I'm using sweetened condensed because I want it to be a little bit sweeter, but you can surely use evaporated milk as well. If you use whipping cream, I have not used whipping cream. What is condensed milk? What I buy in the store, I actually don't know what actually is in condensed milk. But yeah, this is just to show you, I really want to make sure that we're clear here that Christopher is an amateur baker, right? This is about doing things for fun and not because I've memorized everything. So I would assume that if you have condensed milk, you can use it, or evaporated milk. And so here's it all in this bowl, and I'm just gonna mix it together. I've tried to use different things to mix it. Right now, I'm just using a spatula, and then I just try to, as best as possible after I mix it together, to rub out as much of the lumps that are in there. So I'll show you this when I start, once it comes together, but I just kind of fold it, the butter and the evaporated milk and the mix together in the bowl. So here we are, we're starting to see it to come together. Let me just put this to the camera. So you'll start to see it coming together here. Thank you, Layla, for the addition of what the difference between evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk is. Again, amateur bakers. We're doing this for fun together, as we would doing many things during winter study. So I'm just gonna continue to mix this together. As here's what we're seeing right here. We're starting to see it coming together. If you see any, kind of lumps of the mix, you wanna try to rub as much of that out as you're mixing it all together. Okay, so now you have this mixed together here. I'm going to now take a 13x2 glass pan, and I'm going to actually spray it. I've used just vegetable oil. I'm on this kick now because it really does make sure things come out as pan with a little bit of flour, but whatever you have kind of in your house to do that, you can use that to spray the bottom of your pan. Thank you to the chemist who just wrote in the chat about the difference. Someone wants to check that. It says condensed milk is milk that has been the water content reduced. Sweetened condensed milk has sugar added to it, then reduced down to concentrate. Thank you so much for that. So now we have our pan lightly sprayed, so you can have it here. And I'm going to, can use 8x8. Jen, I think you can use any size. Obviously, it's going to be a thicker knock you naked, depending on how big or small or wide your particular pan is. So now you're supposed to take half of it. And essentially what I do is I take it out. This is one of the reasons I use the spatula. And I just press it down, keep pressing it, and keep adding to it until it ultimately fills the bottom of the pan, right? So right now I put some in, I start to press it down, and I'll keep pressing it down until the pan, or keep adding and pressing until the whole bottom of the pan is completely covered with this mixture. Again, you don't want to use it all because you're going to need the other half of it to crumble on the top at the very, in the part of the next step. So don't use it all, just try to, I found the spatula really helps to flatten it out well. Let me see if there's a, okay, Ninja Foodie Grill. Hey, listen, this is all an experiment, friends. Like, we're doing all this together. We're seeing what people's look like. Yours might look better than mine. I might need you to mail some to me. This is all a family experiment that we're all doing together. A big EPHS family experiment. So you can see here, I've taken, well, 1 second, put a little bit more. Inch. All right, so you can see here, I've taken half of it. I've filled it at the bottom of my pan. You can see that here. I don't know if you heard it. I think I was talking over it, but my oven beeped at me to tell me it's ready at 350. So I'm gonna throw this in the oven for 8 minutes. Here. Set my timer. Oh, also, one thing I forgot to mention very early on is that this is being recorded to make me laugh at myself later on, for those of us who couldn't get here on time earlier to catch some of the directions, and just for us to share as part of our larger bicentennial celebration. As you know, Williams is celebrating 200 years of the Society of Alumni this year. So all of these events that you're seeing happening now with these alumni winter studies and other things along that line are great ways for us to come together, especially during the pandemic, to learn from one another and be in community. So now I'm gonna place the other half that I have still left on the side, let it kind of linger. And now we're gonna start preparing for the caramel step on the inside. So I have another glass bowl. I'm going to take, as I said, the original recipe said unwrapped caramels. I don't know about anybody else here. I'm not spending time to unwrap caramel, so I went and found some caramel bits in the store. I just basically empty a bag of them in here. So bag of caramel here. Now, this is where you go back to your condensed milk or whatever thing, your evaporated milk. You will take a half a cup now. So that was the third cup. So you'll take the half a cup and you will put a half a cup of that onto your half a cup of this onto the caramels. Also, I'm interested to see who says caramel, who says caramel. You know, everybody says these words different. I'm from New York City, by the way. So, and like I said, my family's from Jamaica. So there's a little bit of everything in how I say some of these words, but a half a cup of that is in here. And now I'm gonna take and add a tablespoon of vanilla. So I have some vanilla extract here. I will use this tablespoon. Okay. So now we have the evaporated milk, the caramels, and the vanilla. I'm gonna put this in the microwave. In the recipe at this step, if you're fancy and you wanna do a double boiler, great, go ahead, do it. Again, basic, amateur, microwave, just gonna have to do it this way. So I just put it in for about a minute at a time, and we'll let that go while we wait for this to go for wife's favorite food group. Yep. You know, this is another reason why I love sweets. Like, I can eat sweets all day long. This is my way to temper myself for sweets, because if I said to myself, on Friday, I'm gonna bake X, it was like my goal to get to Friday to bake those things, right? So obviously then I would eat and taste test myself. Nothing goes out of my house that I have not tasted myself, which is also a rule that is like, if I don't eat it, I'm not baking it, right? So if I don't particularly like that thing, I'm not gonna bake it, because I wanna make sure I taste it and be able to say, I trust this going out. There are definitely days where, weekends where I made something, it was trash, I threw it out, and what was supposed to be one episode of baking for the weekend turned into 3 because I had to make up and redeem myself for the terrible things that I made. So if you are, I think it's in some of the documentary, you can, if you're on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram, Black Yard Eve Bakery. I'm gonna let it go again. Black Yard Eve Bakery is my Instagram. So you can see the things as they happen, and as I bake, you can see them come up there. I haven't done anything really since the holidays, because brother's been tired. It's been a long year, as many of us have experienced. So this is my actual first baking weekend since the holidays. So we're getting back into that. So you can surely follow me on Instagram. And that's where you can see the things that I've made. And like I said, everything I've put out there are things that I've tasted and I can verify, or others can go out there and verify. If they're, I think Ashley Cart is in here. She's one of the main recipients of some of my food. I think Juan Baena's in this call. He's got some of my cookies at some point in time. I think there are a couple other people I saw who joined the room who've been great. So when did I, you know, Knock You Naked's for me, like I said, I remember them from big events like homecomings or things like, they're not just a regular, they were never just a regular kind of thing. It was always some sort of a big event. So here we go, it's mixed together. I'm gonna take a spoon now, And I'm just going to mix that together as so that we can see if it's melting. If after you do this for a little while in this step, you see that your caramel is not melted enough, or you want, you know, it still has some of the bits, or it's still kind of whole from what you've already been doing, you can surely throw it back into the microwave and try to, you know, melt it a little bit more. Oh, Baxter brownies. Oh, caramel. Would you share the recipe? I have not shared recipes on Instagram. What I do generally is if I've stolen, let me use the word stolen. If I've been inspired by someone on social media, which is what I do, I made this Instagram, Black Arty Bakery, to separate from my personal Instagram so that I could curate who I was following and follow all baked cake people, brownie people, cookie people, right? It made it easier to make sure that my Explore page was all about cakes and cookies, and make sure I really don't follow people back on that Instagram so that I can make sure that it stays cookie and food based. But it really has been, so when I'm inspired by those people, I will tag them in the post. So you'll see if it says like, made this cake inspired by this recipe, generally it's there. I've made substitutes. Like, so for example, my chocolate rum cake is a recipe that someone has. It's just a chocolate sour cream cake. I've since added different levels of dark rum to it. Ta-da, here's what it looks like. My mom thinks I should start a business that's all alcohol inspired sweets. We shall see how that goes. When I was home, I went home for the holidays and she made me make, I think, 3 versions of the chocolate rum cake for her while I was there. And just like she wants to be, she hasn't tasted them all. So, you know, she's just trying to inspire things that she's going to eat and be interested by. And so here's the caramel with the vanilla and the evaporated milk. It's all smooth here. We have exactly 1 minute left before the stuff comes out of the oven, or the bottom comes out the oven. So we'll need this. You should also have at this time, as we get ready to move to this next step, whatever you're using for chocolate chips. Today I'm using semi-sweet. I'm usually more of a dark chocolate person, but this is what I had in my house. And so we're just gonna use this here. So this is about to be done in 30 seconds. Let me just make sure check the chat. Yes, listening to my mom is very important. Did you start the poll for me, Layla, about caramel or caramel? I'd love to see, there's a poll going out. Those of you who are out there, let's see if it's caramel or caramel. It's getting kind of close here. Okay, that's my oven going off at the bottom. Looks like caramel with 52 votes. Maybe I should start working on that. Caramel. Okay, caramel. So caramel won. You can see that there. And so now you have, let me get another. So now you have the bottom, 8 minutes was in the oven, right? So you see that here. Hold on, it's slipping a little bit because it's hot still. It's okay, we'll fill it out. We'll make it work. Don't worry, you'll see what's gonna happen next. So you have the bottom here, it's baked for 8 minutes. Don't flip it to the camera like I did, but you get the idea. I'll just move this back down. Okay, so this is the bottom half here that was in the oven. You're going to now take your caramel, okay, and you're going to pour that over that bottom portion. You want to spread it out so it's kind of evenly amongst the bottom. So I'm going to just use my spoon and put it in here, and then eventually I'll go get my another spatula to kind of smooth this out. I'm not really, it's funny that I really love these because I'm not a fan of caramel in like just to go to the store and buy it and eat it, but it is a great. So here's the caramel poured over the chocolate. I'm gonna smooth it out. Okay, so now after this step and it's smoothed out and you have it over the bottom of the Knock You Naked, you will now take your chocolate chips and you will just pour them over that layer. I'm a chocolate person, which is really probably why the reason I love this so much. So it says in the recipe, I think 1 cup of chocolate chips. I just shake until it looks like enough chocolate for me. And so, but you can start with 1 cup and then go from there. Okay, so chocolate chips are here, caramel is there. Now we're going to take this other half of the original mix that we had from the beginning, and we're gonna crumble that on the top. Now, let me just say something that I've realized that's come to me of late after having made this. This isn't that crumbly because of all the butter and the evaporated milk or condensed milk that you have in there. So you're gonna have to do some, shaking it out and crumbling it over the top, and it's not as quite crummy. I'm almost of the mind, but I feel like dining services, because they make these recipes with a batch of, hundreds of them made at a time. In an ideal world, you probably want to have a version of the top that has no evaporated milk in it. That's just the butter and the mix, because it'll almost make it like a crumb cake that you have at the crumb. That'll be more crunchy at the top. But for now, I haven't experimented on that, so I will not tell you that. This is just my own conjecture of after having baked a lot of things. So I'm gonna just take this, here's this, and I'm just gonna break it up and crumble it over the best as I can over the top of this that I have here. Oh, Kahlua. That sounds very tasty. Or some Baileys, maybe. That might be another good replacement. See, thanks for these alcohol-inspired treats. I'll try them out and I'll throw them on the Instagram eventually. I still have a few more Jamaican black cakes to make for some fellow alums. I think I have to mail one to Canada to Sharifa. And shout out, I don't think she's in here, but one of my old roommate in New York, who's also from Jamaica, Claudine, class of 03. I promised her I would mail her one in Texas. So after I get that, I'll get to these things. So like I said, I'm just breaking this up over the top, it's not gonna be too crummy because again, it has all these things sticking it together, but do the best you can. I'll show you what I've generally made it look like over the top.
Yes, while you're doing that, we have a question. Janet asks, how do you mail desserts, especially cakes?
So the Jamaican black cake does not have any, well, the version I'm gonna mail to them has no icing or frosting on it. So what I did, if you go to my Instagram, I put all the cakes in a tin and I just put them in the tin and mailed the tin to people. Or in the case of the holidays this year, I just gave the tin to people. I'm now trying to investigate I've done a lot of YouTubing. I'm not quite there yet as to how to mail a cake that has icing on it, because it requires like dry ice or other things to make sure it's packed and doesn't move and da 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 da. I'm a bit of a nervous person, so I'm afraid that they'll get the cake and it'll be broken and it'll be like, so I need to investigate that. Maybe I need to mail to my mother first so she'll feel a little bit more forgiving in that moment versus mailing to someone who wants something. And I saw somebody toss chopped pecans in. Yeah, I think you could add the pecans in as they, either at this level or along the top. Again, I don't add nuts, and I know there are lots of people who have nut allergies, so I try to avoid that. So I wish I want to tilt it, but here it is over here. Everything's on the top. You'll see that there. And so I'm gonna throw this in the oven. The recipe says 18 minutes. Everyone's stove is different. I realized that when I was at my mom's house, she has a gas oven, I have an electric oven, so I just have to be mindful. I generally put it at 20 and then I check it after that. And so you could see what that looks like. Black cake does not just belong to Trinidad for those people who are commenting in the chat, but I will say that yes, Trinidad does make some great black cakes. And so while that's in the oven, I feel like Julia Childs, I made one already. So here's a complete version that's already done that I made this morning. I will cut it, it's a little bit warm. It's probably been now, probably finished around 11 o'clock this morning. So it's been cooling for about 3 hours. But I will say that when I made them last, in my last taste test, shout out to my brother, class of 13, Jason Hernandez, and my cousin, Maya Dennis, who's also class of 13. They were part of my taste testing group in New York. I found that it needs to really cool. Like, it's almost too gooey and hard to cut and make the actual squares when it's hot. So I found that actually, like, I made it in the morning, and it wasn't until the night when it really, really cooled that it felt like, okay, now I can cut this and give this to people. But in the spirit of us being together, I'm going to cut a piece. By the way, I'm still trying to figure out who's getting all this because I cannot eat all of this by myself. But my neighbors will get some. Maybe Ashley Cart will get a drop off. Maybe Juan Baena, who's also in this call, will get a little fairy. But those people who are near and in town, if you want some, send me a message. We'll make it happen. Luckily, the snow stopped. So I'm cutting into this. Are there people who are, I'm a corner person. I want a corner as part of mine, and when it's brownies, anything, I don't want the centerpiece. So those people who are saying drop it off to me, you're gonna get definitely, well, I'm only gonna eat a piece, so maybe not. You'll get maybe some, but who else here to take this out? And here is the complete Knock You Naked. It's done, it's cool. I really wish I had some vanilla ice cream here with it because that would also do a really great taste. Let's see what it tastes like. Again, always, if you can, taste your baked goods. You don't want people sending text message about you saying that, oh, so-and-so dropped the cookies off to me and they weren't that great. You don't want to be that person. So here is my tribe Knock You Naked. Great. Perfect. It's also cooled well. So I said this is 3 hours now. So the pan is a little warm, but it's been on a cooling rack in this pan for the last 3 hours. So that's been there. But yes, definitely ice cream on the side would set this off if you have that. It is amazing and sweet and beautiful. So with that, we have that there. Yes, corner, middle, edge. This was a edge, not a corner. Middle only works when you're like at a fancy restaurant and somebody can cut it perfectly. Like, I feel like you need some of that crunch at the end. That's what makes it so good. But that means there's more corner edge for those of us who are corner edge people. So the middle people can fight for what's the few middle pieces that there are. So you can see that there, it looks like corner and edge, we're half, and then middle tries to double us. But that's great. Again, they'll be out there in Pereski lawn fighting for the middle pieces, and we'll be great with our edges on the side of that. So this is Knock You Nakeds. I am Black Yardie Bakery, and I'm happy to answer any questions. If you can raise your hand in the chat if you want to ask a live question, you can raise your hand. I can talk to you about how I started, answer other questions about how I started baking, other things like that. Or we can just chat it up while we have a few more minutes to be together. Don't be shy. When did I start baking exactly? Okay, so last year, 2 years ago, what year is this? 2019, my coworker had us over her house because I was addicted to Great British Bake Off. She's an amazing maker. And she had us make pumpkin spice cupcakes with a maple brown sugar glaze. Frosting. It was amazing. And I was like, well, I don't know if I can ever really get to your level of this. She's like, no, you can do it. You can do it. So then she gave me the cookie recipe that led to me making double chocolate chip cookies. That led to the lemon loaf. Then it led to, I think, snickerdoodles. Basically, I was like, all the things I want to eat and I want to taste, I'm going to make them and give them to someone else. Can you see the cake one more time? Absolutely. You want the full one or you want the piece? This is the piece of it right now that's sliding off my plate. And then the entire one is here. I'll come to the raised hand in a second. Yeah, so that's really when I started baking. And then I think subconsciously I bought a bike in May because I felt that the baking was picking up and I needed to balance out what was happening. And as we're getting ready for winter, I'm one of the many people waiting for a Peloton to be delivered and dropped from the air at some point in time. So I'm just trying to also be mindful of all of this great stuff that I have here and can bake and make it for it. Raised hand, is that Taman? Go ahead. I think they can unmute. I think Layla can unmute you.
Yep. And can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Fantastic. So, unrelated, any chance we could get some additional recipes? I'd love a grilled honey bun recipe. No, that used to be out there on the interwebs, but I haven't seen it lately.
It comes to you now in the pandemic world when it's your birthday. I just got it in my birthday was 2 weeks ago, so I just got it in my inbox. So if your birthday's coming up, stay tuned. It will definitely be in. It's there to make up for the fact that you can't come to campus and get your free honey bun on your birthday. Baking blogs or sites that I follow. So I really love Preppy Kitchen. That is one of the Instagrams that I follow. He makes great videos and he shows you along how he makes everything. And he has great step-by-step recipes. 2 Peas in a Pod, I think is the name of another one that I really enjoy. Also on Instagram, I follow. I also really love bundt cakes. That was that's another thing is I basically stuck to bunts. I've made some layer cakes, but I find bunts are easier to just do one cake, do a glaze and move on. So there's another one like Bundt Bros or something like that is what it's called that I follow. It's basically due to make bundt cakes, and you can see all the different ways, and they curate different people who make bundt cakes. So those are some of the ones that I use most frequently. But again, I will just decide what it is I'm baking and I usually try to decide early in the week. So I have all week to look at different recipes. So for example, I'll use the Starbucks lemon loaf. The first time I made it with butter and buttermilk. Too dense, too heavy. So I spent a whole week trying to figure out how do I make that not feel so heavy. That led to me that my final recipe that I make now is with sour cream and with oil, right? So it's also just playing around and seeing, I usually put things side by side to well, he says this way, she says that way, they say this other way. A, what do I have in my house? B, what can I get really easily? C, what does it seem like it's gonna, as you can see, I'm this is my kitchen, we're here, right? There's no way to do a lot of things. So what's going to take the least amount of mess so I'm not spending hours trying to wash dishes or do things like that. So I just put them all side by side and decide which one is going to be best. Let's see, a mission for Blackyard Eve Bakery. Really, it's about making things I love to share with people I love. That's probably the best way to describe it. It's all things that I really enjoy eating or making and then sharing it with those who I love. Because like I said, most of the people who are the beneficiaries of my baking are friends, are family members, are current students who are here that I have a relationship with. And then that's my way to, make sure that I know that they're doing well. And so that's really kind of the premise on the mission of Blackyard Eve Bakery right now. I melt caramel so long to get whatever. Has that ever happened to me making this recipe? No, I think because of the fact that I've now gotten the little bits with the caramels, it's made that a much easier process than getting those whole big, square caramels that you get in the store. I think it's made that kind of melting process because, I threw away the bag. Did I? No, here it goes. On the bag, it specifically says unwrapped for easy melting, right? So this was my way to say, I don't have to spend all that time trying to melt these humongous caramels that you use to bake. And then, oh yes, I did mention, somebody asked about the apron. I'll reiterate, Sharifa Wright, class of '03. Many of you have gotten many emails from her over the time. She was chair of BSU when I was a sophomore and I was on her board, and then we became friends since then. This was her Christmas/birthday gift to me this year. So she had this mail. I came home one day and I was like, what is this in the mail? And I'm like, I didn't order, you know, again, I'm sure many of you are out there ordering things and sometimes don't even remember, like, what did I order now? And like, I saw something at my door. I'm like, I didn't order this. Opened it up. And I figured it was her because of the kente cloth, because she has lots of ETH inspired kente cloth wear for herself. So that's how I got it. Let's see. Cranberry bisque bars. I have not done Starbucks cranberry bisque. I've only done Starbucks lemon loaf. I've tried the marble loaf, didn't come out so great. And I've tried pumpkin loaf bread, that sort of thing. Those are the things that like I would get at Starbucks. The next thing I want to venture into is scones. That hard cold butter thing is really scary to me. So I'm slowly going to get there. I went to the store because I found cinnamon chips rather than chocolate chips, because I want to make a cinnamon scone. So that's what I think I'm going to try to do over the next few weeks. Hey, Amelia, why baking is fun for you? And she likes to bake with her grandma. I love to bake because I find that this helps me tune out everything that's happening in this crazy world that we're living in and all the things were happening, right? Like, because you have to worry about measurements, because you have to worry about all these, it's like fun science things and putting things together and figure out why they work, but also fun to just like tune out. Like I don't ever have TV on while I'm baking. I just turn everything off so I can really focus on like what I'm doing. And I think that helps to make me happy. Grilled halloumi, listen, this grilled halloumi recipe seems like a hot button item in the chat. Maybe Brooks, you can shout people out about how we can get that to get going there and how people can get that quicker to them. And it says there, if you went to Williams College Facebook group, somebody posted it in the Facebook group. So I guess you can search grilled honey bun and it's there. Favorite childhood baking recipe. So my grandmother used to make an amazing carrot cake that did have rum in it. And so actually I took it this sometime last fall and I made one and I made it with a cream cheese frosting. It was really good. I remember her but my mom, I just remember days of like them cutting the carrots into little small cubes and like spending hours cutting all these things together for people to do that. And so I wasn't doing that this year. I tried to find a way the best way possible to make this carrot cake without spending hours cutting cubes of little carrots, but it worked. It tastes good. And so I'm going to continue working on that because I didn't really love the consistency. I don't shred them. I blend them. So the taste is there, but you don't see the actual shreds of the carrot. But I'm going to work a little bit on that this year and see what that kind of looks like. And any other questions? I want to be mindful of our time and give people time to have this. We have 7 more minutes before this one is coming up. What is your favorite thing to bake? Favorite thing to bake? This is a tough one. It really needs okay, so I enjoyed baking it and I haven't made it often because it does take a little bit of time, but I love coffee cake. Like with the streusel and the cinnamon. And so that's probably my favorite thing that I've baked so far. I have not done it often because it's time intensive. And I also really liked making the black cake as well, because it just was something like I'd seen my family or my family's friends doing it. And so it was cool to bake it. It takes a long time. It's like an hour and a half in the stove to do so. So yeah, so I love those two things. Great. Do you watch the Great British Bake Off? British Bake Off is amazing to me, and it's also intimidating. So like my mom keeps saying like, oh, you're also, just a caveat before I continue, do not watch the American British Bake Off. It is trash. Don't engage in it. Don't watch it. Don't look at it. It's just not a good show. Anyway, back to British Bake Off, which I love. Also, British Bake Off, they should have never gotten rid of my, I don't like this new judge. He's not that funny to me. And so I do love it. I really enjoy it. And it's intimidating because like I said, I'm a baby baker. I don't know anything about all these decorations. When I see people build a face of somebody and make it a cake, I'm like, I can't even get sometimes the layer cakes to stand together. So I'm gonna get there. Eventually I'm gonna get there. Maybe when I have a bigger kitchen, I will do that. And then someone asked if I watched Nailed It. Nailed It, Bake Off, anything that's baking, anything that's interior design, I probably spent hours watching it on Sugar Rush. Any of those things on Netflix that I can binge, I watch it and I enjoy it. And it does inspire me to do more, but not necessarily get to their level quite yet. Somebody asked about my black cake recipe. I followed this guy on Instagram. His name is Hot Chef, HAWT. I'll write it in the chat. HAWT, Hot Chef. He is a Jamaican guy who lives in Toronto, I think is where he is right now. And then I follow he has a lot of YouTube videos. So I followed his YouTube videos and then I made some of my own changes to the recipe, given what like family friends, like my best friend's mom was like my second mom. I was like, this is the recipe. She's like, oh no, change this, change that. So I made some changes, but his recipe is basically the base of the recipe that I used. Favorite baking implement and why? Steel bowls. Okay, so I have probably, I'm sure everybody in this room could say what things they've spent money on to soothe themselves during the pandemic. For me, it's been all sorts of things around baking that I don't think I owned one baking pan a year ago today. Like a year ago, I didn't own one baking pan. I own 4 bundt pans, probably about 6 regular cake pans. I even went, it's not near me right now. I was gonna find I try to find these fancy bundt pans so I can do those as well. But for me, it was switching to glass bowls. I guess I never had glass bowls before. I had metal bowls before that. And so it was like getting glass bowls was like a love. I felt like I was really doing something with the what do they call them? Like where they sit in each other, where they nest in each other, all the different glass bowls. That was a definite level up for me during this period of time. Other questions? We have about 3 minutes left. And if anyone else is baking, I have 3 minutes left in my oven, but happy to answer other questions. Let's see. Got it. Yeah, so I think it's like, you just, again, you got to play with everybody's oven. I think one of the things, so let me tell you, the first recipe I got from Alumni Relations said, Layla, I wish I had it in front of me. It was like something like, use 7.5 pounds of butter. And I was like, this is not right. Like, this can't be right. And it was because I got the recipe that was for when they make the whole campus knock you naked, right? So some of it is you thinking about how you can play with the recipe, figure out, like, so some of it might be, again, like when I was home in Brooklyn, my mom's gas oven definitely was not about to stick to this time, and I had to watch it. So like I can really stick to the time on this, and at home it's not what that looks like. Let's see, sourdough baker. I saw that. That was a thing I thought about, but I'm not really a bread. This is funny. Like as much as I'm like, I shouldn't be eating sweets, but I also don't eat bread that often. So I was like, well, I'm going to avoid the sourdough starter. I was able to find yeast early on in the pandemic. So I guess I never had to hop on the sourdough starter because I found probably the last piece of yeast that was all in the whole Berkshire County. I found before we kind of fully shut down. So I was able to do that. Digital scale is also a great thing. That's another thing another thing I realized that I never did is like, before back in the day, I used to just take the scoop, throw it in, like now I'm like spooning and leveling into cups, like just all these little things that like I just watch these little quirky videos online to figure out like how do they do that, or read what these bakers say and why it makes sense. And then somebody asked if I would make more videos like this to watch on Instagram. I haven't gotten there yet because I think now that I'm getting to the place of like I understand how things work. I need to be, that's probably another thing that I need to invest in is like, if I'm going to do this, I need to be investing in fancy things like a ring light or, something to hold my phone up. A lot of these bakers who are on Instagram, they have someone who's holding a camera for them and can be like, you think it's this, oh, it's this, they made this video themselves. Nah, they got somebody in the background you know, I was watching Rachel, was Rachel Ray, is that her name? I was watching her when I was home over the break, and it's like, there's an elaborate thing happening in the background, not just like one camera. So I want to figure out how I can do that. So here's the second batch, just beeping in the oven. I'll take it out. So I'm not gonna tilt it too much because it's like still gooey, but here is it complete. I'm going to now put this on the rack to cool. I won't cover it quite yet. I will say one thing I also do to make it, again, because I couldn't make the top as crumbly as I think it should be, is once it cools down a little bit, I take a little, you know, this is the thing you use to ice the cake. And I will just tap the top of it to break up any of the big bubbles at the top to kind of crumble it up a little bit more along the top of the cake. Otherwise, you could just cut it as it is and eat it as is, but I use this and tap the top to kind of crumble up the top a little bit more at the very beginning. Well, that's it. They're done. I hope yours are done. And please, if you want, follow. I do respond to direct messages. I won't follow you back because, like I said, I'm trying to curate my Insta to be about baking. Yes, it will harden up as it cools. It will. That's why you just let it sit there for a few hours, and it will surely harden as it goes down. Please follow me on Instagram at Blackyard Eve Bakery. Happy to answer any questions. Hopefully enjoy in this continued support and supporting everybody as we go through the pandemic. So thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed this winter study class. Have a great afternoon, everybody.